peace, which we've had those lessons. Long suffering or patience. Kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Against such things there's no law. I have a whole stack of reference books at home to help look up things, books that were written by scholars who I'm grateful for. And a lot of times I'll do a word study, and you look into it, you peel it apart, you go back and you look at the base languages, blah, 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 all that stuff. And you come away with, yeah, that means exactly what it said. Okay, so you've invested some time and you didn't necessarily come away with anything new. This is not the case for this word patience. At least it was not for me. Patience, as we see in our New Testaments, is translated alternately as patience, long-suffering. Those are the two primary words you see. Forbearance, constancy, steadfastness, perseverance, especially as shown in bearing troubles and ills. Now, not because I'm so smart, but because I know how to click on something with a mouse on the touchpad on my laptop. I was able to look at yesterday in very short order 63 different versions of the New Testament. And probably 58 or 59 of them had the word patience or long-suffering. So I would say that the jury is in amongst people who are eminently qualified to work with these original documents. That those are pretty solid. Patience and long-suffering. Long-suffering. Bert just talked at the end of the prayer session about we have members of our congregation. You have additional members of your family that have physical challenges, maladies that are not one and done, that they become part of their life, that they are things that they have to deal with constantly. They understand this term, long-suffering, in ways that those of us who have not had to deal with those sorts of conditions probably don't appreciate. Here's where it becomes, we have to think about this. Patience is not just your ability to wait, but it's in how we behave while we're waiting. Now, with just a couple of exceptions in here, we're all adults. And I think it's probably safe to say that all of you here either have or have had at one time a driver's license. How fun is it to go stand in line at the office to get your driver's license? Isn't that how we all like to spend a day? Does everybody that waits in that line do it well? Some people misbehave. Some people misbehave in public ways. Some people misbehave in public ways in a fashion that would embarrass their grandmothers. That's just a rule of thumb for you. If you find yourself behaving in a particular way in public that would embarrass your grandmother, you're already on the wrong path, right? Not giving up while demonstrating graciousness in the meantime. Patience and long-suffering. It's not just having to wait. Just because we're being delayed at something doesn't mean we're being patient. I've been delayed in a lot of things in life in which, trust me, I was not behaving in a patient manner. But how we behave, demonstrating graciousness in the meantime. What does graciousness look like? When you observe it in someone, how would you describe it? I'll wait.
Put somebody before you, I guess.
Okay. Giving room to another person. How else?
Calm.
Okay, calm. Not blowing up, not making a bad example of yourself. Talked about it a minute ago. Different what?
Kind to others.
Okay, being kind. Because frequently when we have to wait, we're not alone. Have you ever been somewhere that somebody cut in a long line up in front of you? Were you gracious? Graciousness. It's a quality that's very aspirational, but that not all of us are able to master. We're getting to the heart here of patience. That it has to be done with graciousness. That it's in how we behave while we're waiting. Vine is a standard reference. Long-suffering is that quality of self-restraint in the face of provocation, which does not hastily retaliate or promptly punish. It is the opposite of anger, and it's associated with mercy. Patience, long-suffering, self-restraint in the face of provocation. That's not something I've frequently been good at. I have personally have a long history of struggling with anger. Dana asked me one time, why do you get so angry? I said, because I'm good at it.
Had a lot of practice there.
That wasn't a great answer, but it was an honest answer. And it is just the opposite of this. And it did not just speak well of me. The opposite of anger, and it's associated with mercy. If we call ourselves Christians, then we are the beneficiaries of mercy. So who are we then to not extend mercy to someone else? Continuing with Vine. Patience is the quality that does not surrender to circumstances. It is the opposite of despondency, and it's associated with hope. That's a key part. That's a key part. So now we've gotten three components of patience or long-suffering. One, it involves the waiting. There's a time element that may or may not succumb to our control. Second, it resists the urge for provocation or to respond in anger. And third, it is the opposite of despondency, and it's associated with hope. So Christian patience, when you put all these together, it's a behavior that we have to demonstrate in waiting. But the behavior has to be marked with not retaliating, not reacting in anger, with demonstrating graciousness to the people around us. That's external, that's observable. But it also includes the internal, maybe not as observable, the opposite of despondency and associated with hope. There will be a better day. The sun will come up tomorrow. It's better.
It's about being patient, what I have experienced in myself. A person is sick, and you have to wait on them. I mean, it's a good thing to wait on them, but all the while, if you are complaining, it's not patient.
There you go. Being a caregiver is hard work, right?
It is.
it takes a toll. It takes a physical toll. It takes an emotional toll. And it takes a spiritual toll. And if there's another activity in life that challenges patience more than that, it's a short-lived struggle. But we're not being biblically patient if we're doing it with gritted teeth. I may not have yelled at Edra and said something ugly, but boy, I sure held it back, right? No, that's not biblical patience. That's not being gracious. That's not exercising properly. There are several places in the New Testament this is talked about. In the first chapter of Colossians, and I just highlighted here verse 11, but verse 11 is part, naturally, of a context that includes verses 9 through 14. For this reason also, since the day we heard it, we do not cease to pray for you and to ask that you may be filled with all patience and long-suffering with joy. Paul was praying for the Christians in Colossae for a lot of things. But one of the things he made sure that he included, patience and long-suffering. And in the previous slide or two, I've kind of blended the word study I did for patience and long-suffering. There's a nuance. They're actually different Greek words, but they're used almost interchangeably in a number of verses. I won't bore you with the details. But they're very, very similar. Patience has to do, the word for patience has to do a little bit more with waiting. The word for long-suffering has a little bit more to do with discomfort. But they're very similar.
And I wonder why they differentiated between patience and long-suffering.
Yeah, because
Same thing. Patience seemed like to me would be kind of a short-term thing. Long-suffering would be longer.
okay.
Longer.
And as I spent time with this yesterday, Charles, that's a pretty good rendition. They overlay about like that. About an 85% synonymous. With slightly different flavors. Still in Colossians. Therefore, as the elect of God, holy and beloved, put on, and he lists several qualities there. But one of them is long-suffering. That this is a quality that we should display. Remember a slide or two ago. The observable qualities and the internal aspects of it. No despondency and with hope. Now, I understand there are situations that have very little statistically very low odds of getting better. And we may rationally understand that this situation is not going to get better. But that does not necessarily give us license to be despondent. It's a high bar. It's a challenge. In Paul's second letter to Timothy, he says, preach the word. Be ready in and out of season at all times. Be ready. Convince, rebuke, exhort. For the teachers in the room, with all long-suffering and teaching. Is long-suffering a component of teaching sometimes? Oh my goodness. You remember that? I love the movie Driving Miss Daisy. If you're not familiar, then do yourself a favor. Watch the movie. You remember the scene in the cemetery where the character played by Morgan Freeman is trying to learn the the words, the names on the headstones. And so Miss Daisy is helping him to learn to read, and she ultimately does that. But he says something, I forget the exact words. He says something to the effect of, no, I'm not, I'm just not going to be able to do this. That's a paraphrase on my part. And she responds with this hilarious comment about, I've taught some of the children I've taught to read. Trust me, you're good. You're going to be able to get this. Long-suffering can be part of teaching. Some days, some classes more so than others. But Timothy's told to do that. We're told to do that. Every one of us in here, at one point or another, whether or not it's a formal classroom, is involved in has been involved with teaching something, right? And sometimes it seems hopeless. I had a young man on a high school baseball field, and his heart was in the right place. It just was clouded with ignorance. Because he was very awkward in throwing the ball. More so than normal. Extremely awkward. So I kind of pulled him aside and said, have you ever just, picked up a rock and thrown it at a street sign or something like that? Oh, yeah. Well, this is the same thing. I'm not making this up, y'all. With a glove on his hand. He said, yeah, but I always throw with this hand, the hand with the glove on. And so now I'm trying to throw with this hand. I said, well, that's curious. Why would you be trying to throw with the hand that has the glove on it? Oh, well, I'm left-handed. Okay. Why then, pray tell, are you wearing the glove on your left hand? He said, well, I just figured since I'm left-handed, I needed the glove that goes on my left hand. That's not how this works. Let's try something different. So we freed up his left hand, and he never became really good, but there was a step change in his performance. And he had also been not very effective swinging a bat from the right hand batter's box. So I said, let's put a bat in your hand and step over the batter's box. And let's get you over on the correct side. Charles, again, I'm not making this up. Like, you're the pitcher. So he stands up here, and I said, you need to be over in the left-handed batter's box. So he steps over like this. Now the plate's in his back. And I said, well, let's try turning around. Did that right here. So, there was an example of a bit of patience needed in teaching. I never thought I would encounter something like that, but I did.
Did you do it graciously?
I finally had to walk away. I finally had to walk away, and I said, let's take this lesson one step at a time. He really was trying. He really did not know. At the end of the experience, I do not believe he was playing. But boy, it made for some long days. Another couple of aspects of patience. Patience may be passive. It may be passive on our part. We're not actively doing something, but we have to wait something out. By your patience, possess your souls. If you want to know how important patience is in Christian character, come right here and come to a full stop. Without patience, our souls are in peril. How's that? He who endures to the last shall be saved. Now, clearly it doesn't use the word patience there. But enduring to the last pretty much describes that. Sometimes we have to be patient under deserved affliction. If you endure chastening, Does God chasten us from time to time? Yes, He does. Do we bring the chastening upon ourselves? Frequently we do. But patience is still required. And I don't know the answer to the question I'm about to give you, because this is a hard one, especially those of you who are or have been parents and not understand this. Is it more difficult to be patient with your own affliction or with the affliction of someone very close to you, a spouse, a child? Others. Hard to bear, right? Is it easy to feel helpless, Charles, in those circumstances?
No.
Sarah, what do you think?
Can't.
You know, I was thinking too that I feel, especially in our age group, he's raised by somebody that went through World War II, you know, raised to be tough. We have an example of what he thought a man ought to be. Some of this patience and stuff is a little bit tough.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know of a harder thing in life for me to do than to ask for help.
You know, Tom, this morning I was had the TV on, and there's a place, I think maybe in Birmingham, I'm not sure where. And what they do, they have different things, and you can go in there and throw these things against the wall. It's called breaking everything. Or you have a baseball bat, you just hit whatever they have, or you bring your own stuff. Yeah, the guy said, people come in here, but when they leave, they're very happy.
I need to be
It's called the rage room.
Yeah, the rage room.
It's called the what?
The rage room.
The rage
Yeah.
room.
And it's amazing. They give you different types of weapons and
Yeah.
suit you up in protective gear and glasses.
So you don't
got
hurt
30
yourself.
minutes and up to 4 people, and you beat the brakes off of whatever's in the room.
Oh my goodness.
Sure have. And it was fun.
Oh my goodness. So there may be a therapeutic outlet for not being patient with
Hey, Tom, I'll be offering that for free on my next job. It's called demolition. So don't pay me. Okay.
Anybody in here remember a term, primal screen therapy? What's that about?
You just scream. I mean, to get all the anxiety, the rage, the frustration, you just go out into wherever, forest someplace or a room with a pillow, and you just scream to your heart's content.
And there's some basis for the efficacy of that, right? In the organizations I've been in charge of, that's one thing I've always promised people, and it's a freebie. No harm, no foul. You don't get to do that at our customers. You don't get to do that at the people that we serve. But I understood and I understand that sometimes we reach our limits. And so I would tell people, and I've told people, and it's still in the role I'm in right now. If you come, come to the office, hey, let's say T's there. T comes in. He says, Tom, you have about 5 minutes. Sure, T, 5 minutes for you, always. He closes the door, and he says, I've reached my limit. I've got to let out some pressure and tension. Here we go. I'll take it. I'll stand here and wear it. Boom! You get the full blast. I've had it, and no, and this, and that. And I'll just stand there, and I make sure they know. No harm, no foul. Just get it off your chest. About 2 minutes, 3 minutes later, T says, I feel better. Glad to be of service, buddy. Is there anything I can help you with? No, I'm good now. Okay. Opens the door. Off we go. And I've done that a lot.
I don't know when anyone else does it, but I have a tendency to let mine out in the car.
In the car.
I do a loud scream.
Oh,
So we all understand, right? We all have different limits. But show of hands, who in here has never reached their limit? That's interesting. Okay? No, because we understand what that means. Because we're people, because we're human. And sometimes we got to help each other out with that. Sometimes we've got to lift up the edge of the table a little bit so that that person can manage it. But sometimes long-suffering or patience can be active. Eternal life given to those who by patient continuance in doing good. What is the maximum age that we get to that beyond that we're not expected to do good anymore? Yeah. Only in the grave. In this life, as long as we have the ability and the opportunity, that's expected of us. And that's an active form of patience. It never goes away. It's not going to go away. We have the expectation of doing good. We are expected to bear fruit with patience. Remember that business of bearing fruit with graciousness, with hope, with no sense of despondency, that it's expected of us. It's not extra. It's not an extra credit question at the end of the test. It's part of what's expected. And in running our race, let us run with endurance the race that's set before us. Sadly, some people's races are cut short. I think I've mentioned before, one of the jobs I had in high school was I worked in a cemetery. I dug graves. A buried classmate. You know what the hardest graves were to dig? I have trouble even getting it out today, after all these years later. The really little ones. Those are hard. That's a stranger. You don't know that person. You don't know that family. You'll never meet that family. But just the act of digging that little grave is incredibly difficult. Every spadeful is hard. Some races are short, other races are longer. The men of my family tend to be short-lived with heart problems. We have bad DNA. And up through my mother's generation, we also had women who cooked everything in cast iron skillets with heavy gravy. Maybe they were trying to kill us one forkful at a time. But we have to deal with it. We all have races that we have to run. So where do we end? Where do we end with patience? Paul tells the Thessalonian Christians, "Now we exhort you, brethren, warn those that are unruly, comfort the faint-hearted, uphold the weak, be patient with all. See that no one renders evil for evil to anyone, but always pursue what is both good for yourselves and for all." So, who would Paul give you as an exceptions list for who you're supposed to be patient with? No one. No one. People of different doctrinal perspectives. people of different politics, people of different social structures. During my career, I did a lot of work with a power plant outside of New York City and another one just outside of Boston. You know how hard it was to be patient with some of those people? No exceptions granted. No exceptions granted. That was what I thought exactly. Visiting places in Illinois and Iowa were easy because it's Midwest nice. There's a reason they say Midwest nice. But not everybody is Midwest nice. We have to be patient with all. We cannot render evil for evil, but pursue good for what is good for ourselves and with others. So we'll wrap it up. It's not optional. It may go on for a long time. We have to handle it with graciousness, not anger. We have to have a spirit of hope within us, not despondency. Sometimes it's passive and just waiting. Sometimes it's active, serving as a caregiver, doing good for others. There is an aspect of patience in us being told to do good to all for as long as we're here, and we have the opportunity and the ability. A lot of layers to this notion of patience. If we had a graduation ceremony and we gave fancy little certificates to everybody that had perfected patience and graduated and moved on, how many here are going to get their graduation certificate? Are we still working on it? God bless you. Thank you. That's all I've got.